Om Shanti, and welcome to Global Harmony House, our Insights program for January 14th. We have a couple of wonderful presenters and an extra wonderful MC who I would like to introduce and bring on, and that is Louise. Louise, are you there? Are you
Mute.
there and
Good.
able to
Yes,
hear?
I am here. I'm all unmuted and ready to go. Thank you so much. Well, welcome everybody to our Thursday night insight session. And if there's anyone new here, we especially welcome you. And we're very happy to have everyone here. This evening, we have a very special program. And we actually have two speakers this evening. One of whom you are very familiar with, Brother Ram, who needs no introduction. And the other of whom is new to our Thursday night sessions, but certainly not new to the BKs. So I just want to remind you that our theme for January is It's Time to Be Here. Now, so we have a topic tonight that says that spiritual awakening and the courage to come alive is what that theme is really, really, truly talking about. And I have a wonderful quote that some of you may have seen from the very famous psychiatrist Carl Jung. And he explains that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you really are. Coming alive means really feeling life, feeling both the good and the bad of feelings, meeting whatever is here in the moment. It takes courage to wake up out of the dream of who you thought you were. It is a willingness to keep putting your head in the lion's mouth. It is a willingness to live for the love of truth, no matter what, with love. To love truth with love. So these may take some time to digest these words. I know that Carl Jung is no stranger to the BKs, and that he was one of those wonderful psychiatrists who really crossed into things that are beyond science's understanding. And so I think this should be a really interesting night. And by the time you leave here, we're hoping that you take home with you an idea of being in the now, no matter what's going on. I always say this, outside your front door, whether we're in a pandemic, whether we are dealing with Washington, politics, it doesn't matter if we know who we really are. And of course, if you've been coming here every Thursday night, then you truly know that who you are is not a body, but it's the energy of you. It's the part of you that never leaves this. Um, I don't want to say planet, that never leaves. How's that? Okay, so our first speaker this evening is Euritsi, who has been studying Raja Yoga for over 12 years with the Brahma Kumaris. Is that correct, Euritsi?
Yes.
And she is a beautiful, beautiful dancer whom I've come to know over the past few years as being this angelic figure on the Harmony House stage that none of us seems to be able to go to on a Thursday night anymore. But hopefully someday Euritsi will perform. She's so multi-talented. She's just the most angelic presence. And she works as a trauma-informed stress management online coach these days. And her expertise of 16 years as a medical massage and lymphedema therapist has pushed her to look deeper into what could have been getting in the way of her clients' ability to heal, to sustain a relaxed, balanced, and pain-free state, and stop the dependency of short-term fixes. Now, we all know how to put Band-Aids on our feelings. We all know how to push those things we're afraid to think about way down deep down inside ourselves. And sometimes they come up as dysfunctional, physically. We react physically. Everyone knows that we can create a headache with tension, but when you think of the power of the mind to create stress and for it to come out in your body, is something we'll be talking about tonight, I'm sure, and which maybe we're not as familiar with as a simple migraine or headache. So, noticing the wellness culture lean more and more throughout the years on quick fixes, Euritsi has devoted her career to getting to the root problems of pain and stress and whatever, and to work on, as we said, a deeper level, a more subconscious level, to bring the awarenesses that may have been caused by trauma into the surface. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our first speaker to you, Euritsi. Welcome.
Hello. Oh, thank you so much, Sister Louise. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so honored to be here and being able to share. It's such a time right now. I think we are open to connect to some explanation of why so much tension, right? So since we are in a spiritual setting, right, I feel that we are all constantly on a journey to feel that expression of our true self and the real components, the real aspects that make us, which is these beautiful energies, these beautiful qualities, and that are the anatomy of the soul, I would say. So in my career, and as the years have been passing, I saw that a lot of people were limiting themselves to feel that, as you mentioned. Thank you for reading some of the bio. Some people started to just lose power and awareness of how much power they could have on feeling better, and really take on practices that require discipline to keep going and grow and expand. And for those that look for a spiritual fulfillment, like myself, I never thought that of the word trauma, even though I was working with the body, helping people feel great and myself, taking care of myself, meditating and studying and trying to just really embody who I'm being reminded I am, right? My qualities.
Sure.
So the word trauma came across, and I thought that trauma, I think that when we hear the word trauma, we feel, we know two extremes, which is the PTSD, which is something from war, violence, like collective events like that, or other more severe. But pretty much when I understood trauma, what it means, and when trauma happens in our body, which is our vessel, is just any time that our body and when we don't feel safe, when our safety is compromised, physical safety, emotional safety, our spiritual safety, and mental, right? When any of those aspects are compromised and are stepped over, I should say, then the body reacts. Thankfully, we have another brain, a whole nervous system, the enteric nervous system, like other areas in our body that are constantly picking up these signals to create a response. So then this trauma adaptation happens. So for whenever another situation, if we survive that situation, whatever it was, the mind already knows, okay, react this way, do this, run. Now, it helped me create a lot of compassion for myself and for others, because the body doesn't know what kind of situation it is. It just knows it has to protect you. It knows that it has to protect you. It has to keep you safe and make you act and run for our life, for our safety. So sometimes I found out myself that I was just bypassing, we can say, just bypassing situations that were keeping me stuck. And this is where, when I started practicing and reading about these subconscious beliefs, knee-jerk reactions that are constantly communicating from my body up to the mind, and then the mind creating a whole other reality, I was able then to keep moving, Now, I really like when you start studying trauma adaptations and somatic trauma, you will hear of Carl Jung, this psychologist, psychiatrist, master that tapped into these spiritual laws and conscious and unconscious collectively. And he touched on the shadow work, as they call it. And the shadow is pretty much things that we don't turn into, we don't look at, because perhaps society, perhaps how we were raised, perhaps where we are from, where we work, our family values, perhaps is very contradictory and to what we feel it's true to ourselves. So we create a whole personality around living under those rules and values that are really not true to ourselves. So we develop adaptations. Sometimes is I don't want to go through the list, but it's just things that we don't feel good. They don't feel good in the body, but we don't stop to ask them why. We feel in a certain way. We feel that our boundaries have been crossed, but we don't dare to ask and allow the emotions to tell us what is going on, right? Because there is, for me, I feel that there is a lot of judgment, and sometimes there is no judgment, but collectively, we've been carrying these subconscious rules of what is allowed and what is not.
So are you saying that this kind of pain gets in the way of our living in the moment and enjoying life?
Yes. Yes. So why being present sometimes is hard is because we move on. We want to achieve. Let's say we have a goal, but the situation that we find ourselves, or the surroundings that we have, or where we live, they are constantly triggering reactions that our mind doesn't have time to stop and say, is this really true? Is this really mine, for example? Sometimes there is, I'm sure some of you have heard the term epigenetics. Sometimes we don't understand why we feel in some way about certain things, certain beliefs, certain anything in the world. But epigenetics show that we inherit these trauma responses through the DNA in our nervous system. So for our protection and the safety of our tribe, we can say these things are past just to keep this status, we can say, or this way of living. And when the situation changes, when the years pass, the generations, the decades pass, we are still carrying this way of reacting to these external situations. And then we find ourselves in this, I cannot pass through this, I cannot move through this, I cannot attain this goal. And we go around outside trying to look for the answers, but a lot of times the body has been telling us, sometimes we have to take the opposite direction. Sometimes we have to say no to something that has been keeping us going in one direction because something subconscious for protection has been guiding our decision making. So when meditation comes in our lives, it's all about going in, right? But then personally, in this few years that I've been in meditation, I didn't know how to process some toxic emotions. I was trying to just look at them in a very positive way. I was attending retreats and all that, but I never knew how to allow, detach in a detached way, allow them, acknowledge them, and accepting them. So when I learned this process, the triple A, allowing, accepting, and what did I say? Allow, accept, acknowledge. Yes. It's like they just dissolved. And the gift that came after that, I was able to interpret consciously. So I was able to receive the power from that, connect to this higher power that is guiding that vision, that dream, that step that I want to move to, but that I was being stuck behind because of that emotion that I was not allowing myself to feel, because we think that it's our true self, and it is not, right? It's just energy, and it's just something that needs to be processed, fully connected, body mind connected. And when we learn some tools, just allowing them, accepting them, acknowledging them, then the energy can transmute.
But Yuritsi, aren't some feelings just too painful to look at?
Thank you for asking that. Yes, 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 yes. And as a disclaimer, somatic trauma is not the cure for things that sometimes they do need a more medical, right, look. Like you need to go with somebody who is medical qualified, because sometimes we need medicine for some psychological imbalances. And there is help. It's all about safety. There are two ways of approaching trauma, and it's through talk therapy. And then what I am talking here, it's about the trauma adaptations that are stored in the body, which is just little by little. Now, why are they painful? Sometimes, again, we are so disconnected when we are in a traumatizing experience or a moment that we just feel that something was just crushed. It feels like something got crushed inside of us. We disconnect ourselves from being aware and here in our body. So we are here, but not fully. And what we want to do is little by little, every day, like microdosing, creating safety in the body. Just every day, creating safety, like actual safety, involving my mind. If I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to start writing or journaling, because these practices will bring deeper feelings that are stored when you start giving space to the energy, it will start moving. So we want to create safety in our surroundings, the primitive, primal, basic safety. Do I have food? Do I have a roof? Am I safe in my surroundings? These little reminders every day will start strengthening and regulating our nervous system, because constantly our nervous system is into too much fight or flight, as I mentioned, running, trying to keep us safe without no reason sometimes. Sometimes being in our house, like right now, a lot of people are enclosed in a lockdown and they still feel unsafe because the mind is constantly thinking and is being triggered from what we read on social media, on the news. Even though we are safe in our space and we have what we need, the mind is constantly thinking, oh, we need to avoid something in the future. So we are not here. We're constantly thinking ahead, right? So in that way, we never get the chance, or we don't have the time and the space and the safety feeling to allow things to emerge and then step back. It's like coming in, coming out, coming in, coming out. Once your nervous system is regulated, then it's like magic. Things just start making sense. And you see that what you were afraid of, or what you were so maybe anxious or feeling bad about, it's not that big. It's really that nothing is going to happen. You start getting guidance. This authentic wisdom that we have starts awakening. And then you start creating another situation around you. But there needs to be this safe container that you create every day. I don't know if
Yeah.
that answered.
Sure, it does. And I know that feelings, I remember reading that feelings are only feelings. They really are our imagination. They're from things that happened from the past. So where does our spiritual experience come in to help us face what we perceive as a fear that really is eating away at our living in the moment, you know? So
Right.
can you talk more about how who we really are and how we can find that courage to really explore these things that seem like I don't want to touch it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there is the spiritual. I think we all know this balance state that we are constantly looking for, and what is my quality? It's really not. We are peace. It's a frequency. Peace means balance between. It's neutral, a neutral state. When I'm at peace, I can feel contentment, and it's a more stable feeling. Where does it come in? The more I try and I set the intention and I open up, sometimes I don't need to know how, because if I'm aware that my mind is trying to going to do its job, which is bring database and thoughts and labels and trying to intellectualize a lot the meditation process. Let's remind ourselves that peace, it's a feeling. And what I have done is, if I want to feel my true qualities, I want to sit down and try to remember, try to embody those qualities. I will find out that there is something that starts to get in the way. And it might be a thought, but that thought usually comes with a feeling. So right there, the triple A formula I do: acknowledge. Maybe it's a little, I need to say something. Okay, I write it down. Or maybe it's something that it's bothering me. It's something that I'm afraid. I acknowledge that. I don't try to fix it, because the moment I try to fix it, the mind starts to try to fix it. And then I am brought back
Sure.
again into the same experience. So I feel that the spiritual, the more I have the intention to embody these qualities, the more my space I'm going to create for these frequencies, for these energies that need to be transmitted, we can say, through our nervous system. But if my nervous system is not regulated, right, it's going to take longer. So it's really just sensing the energy of these emotions, or of what's not keeping me here, maybe with my breathing, maybe with my awareness of who I am. Why is it? Why I'm not here?
Who
Why
am
can't
I?
who
Who
am
am
I?
I?
And what I have found out, the more I went into this, I realized that I was being just responses. There is a moment where you come out of all these trauma adaptations and subconscious reactions where you don't have idea of who you really are. And I feel that's a great point to be, because then when you start bringing in, when you want to download and really attract connect to the source, you are a clean slate.
Oh, so is that where I get my courage from to look at the things you're talking about? So if
Yes,
my
setting
original
intention.
state is one of love and peace, as we learn here with the Brahma Kumaris, that I am a soul with a body, not a body with a soul, that's the part of me that I need to tap into. So we only have a few minutes left before Ram will join us. But how do we find that courage? Where does that come from? Where does that power come from
Well,
within us?
I think the intention to want to receive it and to want to connect to the source, whomever or
Right.
whatever you connect to. There is something that sometimes faith is hard to be embodied. The intention, when you open up to the higher source, just to be there and be so honest with yourself and have that courage. And courage is really just accepting that it's not you, whatever is getting in the way. It's really not the absolute truth. So as long as I remember that, then I can breathe and accept what
Yes.
it is. And then things
Right.
just magically move.
Yeah.
And there is space, compassion, awareness, and then
Yeah.
I can receive. I'm open.
Yes. I remember when I first started to be a student here of Raj Yoga, I remember just thinking it was hard to believe that my original state was one of peace, was one of love, because I had spent most of my life burying all of that wholesome, virtuous me with fears and living under a blanket of fear. And I think that people who suffer not only from the outside, but from the inside, the trauma of whatever it is, it almost doesn't matter to me where it came from. When I came here, I found tremendous solace and slowly started to understand and believe that there is a higher energy, whom I call God, that I can draw on and not be alone in these moments.
Exactly. We are
Yeah,
not alone. And the mind
not
makes it seem
alone.
like and makes it feel like.
Right,
But as long as we look for that support, we go to a place where we are surrounded by this energy
right.
and we have the tools like we offer here,
Yeah,
right? It makes it easier because the mind is already so tired of trying to figure it out
right.
that we need some extra help,
Yeah,
divine help. Yes.
yeah. So, just one final question for you before Ram comes on. When you practice, when you are dealing with clients, I know you're a BK. I know that there's so much that you personally can draw on when you're helping others. Do you do that? Is that part of your healing practice to draw on that energy yourself? Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yes, I feel that in order to help others, I have to be, for me, I have to be stronger and I have to be connected to that. And if not, it's all energy. If I don't know, let's say if somebody is really disconnected or they need some guidance, I have to first go and walk that path first and feel and experience. So since I have had beautiful experiences, I can be that energy container for the other and create this safety. And I don't do all the work, it's
Beautiful.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
God, of
beautiful.
course. Yes.
That's so beautiful. Well, I hope you'll come back to us and we'll have more detail from you to
Thank
learn
you so
and the
much.
beauty of what you do and the best of luck with everything you do. And
Thank
thank
you
you again for
so much.
coming. Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and now I don't think Ram needs an introduction because we all know him pretty well. And talking about bringing in this energy and force, Ram is, from my experience, the embodiment of that energy. And I have never ever, is he here? Ram, are you with us? There you are. I've never seen him without, they say here that your face mirrors your higher self. It mirrors all of your energy and your love and your peace. And I'm looking at your face right now, and it just makes me so happy. So without further ado, I'd like you to talk to us tonight, Ram, about finding that courage, perhaps, to live in the moment well. I know you know how to do that well yourself. So the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you, Rifty. It was really wonderful talk, and actually, it just is working out. You brought up like you were talking about two things: safety. That is what your field is, and then we are talking about the spiritual awakening. That means knowing about my own self. So, what I am going to build on whatever you have already spoken, and maybe you
Mhm.
didn't have more time to
Beautiful.
explain.
Yeah.
And
Excuse me, Ram. Before you begin, I'd like to invite the audience to go to the chat or to the Q&A. And if you have any questions for either Ram or Euritsi at the end of Ram's 20 minutes or so with us, we will have a Q&A, and we would love to respond to questions addressed to either Ram or Euritsi or both. Okay, thank you.
you brought up this thing that in the time of trauma. So now I use the word, she talked about the medical term and the connecting the spirituality with the medical term. And I
Mhm.
am going to connect the spirituality with engineering. And
Aha.
so that means, so you could see even in our profession, spirituality is the common denominator. That means we all use the spiritual aspect even within our profession. Like I was thinking when you were talking about trauma. Trauma is external situation, and the engineering equivalent is trauma is like a some kind of like a seismic load. All of a sudden earthquake comes or a hurricane comes. Now, when we design a building, and in this case, how we build our life, so we take care of one is the called static loads, dead load, the weight of the concrete, the weight of the structure, weight, whatever that is going to be constant.
Mm.
Other thing is functional loads, like we call them live load. People walking around, doing things, and having the office work, and based on the activity, we design heavy load for the offices or industry compared to the living load. People are walking. So we work on that. That also we are able to predetermine. But what we are not able to determine is seismic load. We don't know how big the earthquake will be. We don't know how big the hurricane will be. So we call them impact load or sudden loads. So it is very equivalent to trauma, basically. Trauma is something out of nowhere. And so this where I found that there are two things. So I start to work in that sense that like we say, you also touched upon that when there is a trauma, what we are first of all protecting myself and then to build on it. So protecting here is that we predetermine our design we build some inbuilt the strength within the foundation and the walls so that they can take care of the functional and the dead loads or the constant loads. But now comes to we call it trauma is when you are affected. But I will use the word traumatic situations or conditions. The same thing. So now there are traumatic or sudden situations, but this is where we see the difference. Like two people going through the same traumatic situation, two people, but they will, when we use the word react or respond, that will be different. Somebody will be totally traumatized. They will be, I have my own experience too. I have seen people, they go crazy. They are running around not knowing what to do. They are totally lost. So they are traumatized. But there is another personality who have the courage, who are able to provide the help to the traumatized people.
Yeah.
So now you could see that is where the difference comes in, that when we make ourselves that traumatic situation, how I can handle. So that is how I look into many times if we are only trying to be safe or protected, then situation will come again and again I will be traumatized. So that means I have not overcome those situations. That means somewhere, as you had mentioned, we have inbuilt in our DNA, to take care of the traumas. We have that inbuilt situation, but sometimes situation could be more than what the body has already built. It's a new kind of thing. So that is where we say that in just take care of the new things is, that means I know people will more connect with the safety and protection because the fear and the pain is visible right now. Like we are seeing the situation, everybody can relate to it, that how to get out of the trauma, how to get rid my all the fear and my sorrow, how to come out of this trauma or the stress of the trauma. But what people are not fully aware of is the courage, something to build, because they are not able to visualize what to be built. So that means that is where you will find, if supposing we both are, talking about, even you will have much, much more audience because you are dealing with people's present situation, problems, and you are giving them the solution, how to protect yourself. So, building on it, that is that one side safety, other side is building. Like engineering is connected with the building. So, like as you mentioned, that we have in our DNA, the spiritual DNA, spiritual side of the DNA, that where we talk about love, we talk about peace, we talk about happiness. So there are two dimensions of this thing. One is static, that means inbuilt. What takes care of my safety, I can turn within myself, and then I become peaceful within myself. I am protecting myself from the external situation. In addition to that, when we talk about engineering, we are talking about building. So that means when I am building, that means all these qualities of love, peace, and happiness, which we achieve with meditation and connecting with the higher being, the engineering says making them dynamic. One is safety, that is static. Foundation, take care of the load. Structural, all the framing takes care of the load, which is known. But the other thing is that making them dynamic, that means making my love dynamic, making happiness dynamic. So that means performing actions. When I perform actions, actually that is a dynamic side of my DNA. Because we know love can move the mountains. We have heard that. Is it true or not? Love can move the mountains, or love can melt even a stone. It's true or not? We at least talk about that. So that means that's a courage. Or we know that when we are happy, we sleep less, we eat less, and we are more energetic. Even we eat less when we are happy. When we are not happy, that is where I go into the fridge or go into my chips and all that. But when I'm not happy, it's true. So that means making all these, the DNA you're talking about, dynamic. Put them to action. So that action, that means that one is going inward with the meditation. Then when I have built that inner immunity and also the strength I have built within myself, then getting out. Moving out, that means I start to build. So that means, like we say, that the body also has built the immunity towards whatever comes in front of her. But building the body has not built the immunity, what is out there or in the future. So here we are talking about building my capacity much, much above and beyond. For example, when we talk about seismic load, we talk about wind load. I can design the foundation and the structure much, much bigger than the seismic load, which we can anticipate. So that means I am becoming much, much bigger than the present situation. And that is where my vision comes. That is where, what I should be doing. And so what I found was, same thing you use the word DNA of love, peace, and happiness, and understanding soul and the body. As the body has my parents' DNA, we are very similar in many, many ways. Then the soul, we know soul, who is the parents of the soul? So then we say higher being. People, we call God, we call Jehovah, we call different Allah, different names we give to God, or we call it higher being or God of my faith, I can say, but higher power. So that means I am child of that higher power. So that means I carry God's DNA. So God's DNA is, we say God gives happiness. So that means I start giving happiness. God gives love. So I start to go out and start giving love to the people. So that means in the same traumatic situation, I am also in trouble. Other persons are also in trouble. But can I find somebody who is in more trouble and pain than I am and start to help that person? And it is a factual thing. We have seen in our life too, whenever my attention goes in helping other people, your own pain and sorrow disappear. I'm sure that that is your experience too. Working daily, sometimes you are in trouble too. Your body is not perfect all the time. You might be feeling even sick. You might be feeling low energy and all that. But when you see somebody in such a big trouble, you smile and then you start to work. And to your amazement, you are not even tired after doing all the 1 hour work or whatever. Is it true or not? So these are not only theories, they are the real, factual things. So that is where we are saying that we talk about building. So that means my DNA, one is my DNA is dormant, then is sleeping, like a seed, in a jar or in a bag. But when I put it into the ground, I expose it to the atmosphere, to the soil, to the nature. So what happens? The seed sprouts. So now seed is in action. So that means all the DNA which was dormant has been awakened. So the meditation is only this process of awakening my DNA. I start to feel, wow, now you could see the seed is under the ground, but the force it has of opening up, it comes from the ground, goes up against the gravity, and even break through the soil, and then keeps on going higher and higher. And that is where we talk about the spirituality becoming my building, that I am building not only safety, but I am building my life. I am building the future. And that is how, when I was talking about, you used the word emerging, the courage. So emerging is sprouting of the seed, basically. I have the courage to go against the gravity. So we say courage is like putting my head into lion's mouth. But I actually recently I saw one video where there is a one lion lying there, and little tiny dog, the smallest one, is jumping around and like, biting the tail, biting here, there, and facing and all that. The In the beginning, the dog tried to move the, I mean the lion tried to move that away, but he will not give up. Finally, we find he started to love him so much. Even he took him in his mouth, but very soft, not to hurt, but showing that love. So that means once I have the courage of love which you mentioned, the courage of humanity, the courage to help other people. That means I have the courage to bring out all my qualities, my abilities, my virtues, my powers. Then I get help from the nature, from circumstances, from God. And that is where we say that lion also becomes nurturing. So that means even our difficult situations really turn us into a courageous people. We are not fearful of the lion's mouth anymore. So same thing we can do with our own life too, that building the spirituality means applying the spiritual energy in my life. And that is where I will become stronger. I will have more understanding. Even my imaginations will be far and wide. Like engineers, we don't know. It's not the building is not there, but they start to imagine. Actually, they are very clear in their mind how it will look, but they are not able to sell it sometimes, because nobody, first of all, it is not a kind of needed. It's not that need of the time right now. So they have to think ahead, visualize, and then they create the concept. Then they try to pursue with the people. We try to, oh, maybe it will work, like it will work this way. They start to give them the, kind of visualization or something. And finally, then they accept, then you do the design, and then you do the construction, isn't it? So it's the same kind of thing. Our spirituality also, because it needs courage to visualize. So our DNA, our experience of our life actually gives us this courage that I had done it before, I can do it again. So my little successes, like, starting with I am pain and sorrow, let me remove other people's pain and sorrow. And the experience I will gain, that will give me the courage to do the future also in the same kind of situation, how I will react. Then I will not be reacting, I will be responding. That means I will not be safety, but also building the world of happiness, building the world of courage, peace, happiness, and love. So that's what I want to share.
Yeah, I say you're the only person I know who can make the spiritual so concrete. And you're using that
Concrete
metaphor.
is engineering too.
Right. And Yuritsi is really saying the same thing, that we have to supplant, we have to have an experience that takes the charge out of the trauma, or whatever you want to call it. And that, from what I'm hearing, you're bringing together engineering and your beauty all into the umbrella of spirituality, which is the choice not to be the victim of the trauma, and to believe that we have within us the power to supplant the trauma with other experiences that replace what may have triggered it in the first place. I know that's true in my life. And I've watched my body stop reacting to the old forces that used to disturb me. Whether I'm waiting in a doctor's office for results, or I'm looking out my front window these days, I'm able to find that within myself since I have become more spiritual. So I want to invite the audience at this point, if anyone has any questions for either Ram. I know we're getting a little late here, but we would take a question or two. If anyone has, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Anyone? Q&A? No. Okay. So what time is it? Okay. So we have 10 minutes, and I would like to know if either of you would like to comment on anything further before we ask Yuritsi to take us, if you would, into a reflective commentary on what we've explored this evening. Since you're the new voice around here, so we've asked the lady to do it tonight, the sister. Yeah. So any of you want to punctuate or put a...
So I will say that let Yursi come up with the comment like I built on her what she picked, and maybe if I could add, or if she has question or anything, but maybe
I really liked the term, how you linked the engineering. And I have seen that we are a whole system that we can start engineering inside of ourselves. We have that capacity. And you touched on the foundation. I think when I'm sorry for the noise, if you can hear some, I
That's
think
okay.
they're spraying something. It's a mosquito season. So,
we can hear you. We
okay,
can hear
great.
You.
The foundation is that we try to build something magical because we envision something so beautiful we want in our life. We want a different life, maybe we want to expand and explore and just feel different in life, but there is no foundation because we didn't know we needed something strong, and that inner strength, those inner values, to learn who we are and what is always like eternal. I would say that it's constantly there, that comes from love, peace, all these beautiful qualities that we have as an eternal DNA. But when we don't, we're not taught that. I think I wasn't taught that those were my qualities when I was born in this physical body. I just started to try to build on top of that, and then the situations come and it's like, oh, I didn't expect that, and then I just keep falling, right? I mean, quote, and it seems that, oh, I cannot just grow or expand or change or away or shift something inside of me. So this inner foundation that you mentioned, part of our building this beautiful system that we are, it's perfect. It's a perfect term. I love it.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight. So Yuritsi, would you lead us into guide us in a little reflective conclusion to this beautiful evening?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank
Yes, it
you.
would be my pleasure.
Good.
So, everyone sitting at home, let's start by bringing everything together, creating safety, basic safety, and just telling our body, our mind that we are here, and we are going to involve our physical sense of our sight, and really just looking around, noticing the structure of the walls you have around you, that there is nothing that is going to fall or something that is going to fall from the table, or just make sure you're safe with your eyes. Nothing is behind you or a tiger or something. You're here. You can relax. So really look around, and I am safe. This body is safe. And then I want to notice my sense of smell. Just notice that there is nothing dangerous happening. There is no smoke, or just really creating safety so I can be here in the experience. And then feel where you're sitting. Just take a deep breath and feel the breath in your body. Feel the weight of this physical body on the chair, on the sofa, wherever you are sitting. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Maybe sense your taste. Everything is good. You are here. You are protected. You are safe. You have people that love you. You are safe. And now I create the awareness. I bring my awareness to my forehead. And allow your breath to reach that area in the space of your brain, your eyes, behind your forehead, in your shoulders, your heart space. And bring that breath lower into your belly. Let it expand. And just notice if there is any area that might feel tight. Maybe it's bringing our attention, maybe there is some pain or not. Let's just acknowledge what is happening right now. What are you feeling? Any feeling, any emotion present, let's not try to fix it. We want to bring it in front. No judgment. And as a soul, it's this point of light, this being of light that I know that I am. I know deep in my heart that there is something eternal and constant inside of me, constantly wanting to expand and express itself. And with that awareness, create a link to this source, the higher source, your spiritual father and mother, the supreme, this source that you connect to, that you know is there for you. Let that connection be felt in your full presence, your full body. And bring slowly your attention to the forehead. And let me remember that what is true now, what has been true, what will be true, is that I am always love. That quality is always inside of me. I am love. That is always the now. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that. But let me just sit with that feeling and imagine yourself as a wireless system, just receiving that charge of this beautiful energy that is constantly there. For that's what is true right now. And just take a deep breath. And slowly, if you had your eyes closed, connect to your surroundings. And just notice that subtle change that this microdosing moment of remembering and connecting to that source of what's true now, it's always there available for you. May you feel safe here and now and always. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yuritsi. Thank you, Ram. Om Shanti. That was so beautiful. Perfect
Thank you
ending
so
to a
much.
beautiful hour for all of us. Thank you. So,
Shanti. Thank you.
welcome, and please do come back to us. Okay, I have just two announcements. We have a very special Thursday night celebration for next Thursday, the 21st, 7 to 8. We're going to reflect on a spiritual tower. We are reminded of the essence of spirituality, peaceful, pure-hearted, empowering, and wise. Brahma Baba transcended his physical body on January 18th, 1969, but the impressions of his life are timeless and continue to light the way for spiritual seekers around the world to discover their own inner strength and beauty. Please join us on January 21st as we celebrate the legacy of our spiritual pioneer. That's from 7 to 8 with meditation first, if you wish. And the week after, we resume our Thursday conversations, and the topic will be surrender to what is, let go of what is not. So we hope you'll join us on both evenings. And if you are new, you can call Harmony House for any information you need or to become a member of our emailing list. So I want to just say thank you again to our lovely guests. Thank you all for coming this evening. And Om Shanti.
Thank
Peace.
you, Om Shanti.
Shanti,
Om
thank you.
Shanti.
Om Shanti, everyone. Thank you, Ritzi, Ramprakash, Louise, and everyone in the audience. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, and may it be filled with all sorts of healing and engineering. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Eric. Om Shanti.